Hey everybody, Randy here in Eastwood Garage. Today I'm here with Andy, who's going to be demonstrating some of our products. So now, if you're a real Eastwood guy, no matter how good your products are, you're probably looking for a way to improve them, to make them yours, to make them fit a specific task. Well, recently, I was back in our research and development, and I saw this contraption, which as you can see, it was our standard MP250 welder with another welder on top, handmade tray to hold it, and then some cool hooks here on the side to hold all the cables. And I asked Andy about it, and well, Andy, I'll let you describe how this came about.
So basically, in my shop at home, I only have a car and a half garage. So when I pull a car in there, I've got 5 feet between it, shelves, and other things on the other side, toolbox, everything like that. So I don't really have much room. So if I want a MIG welder and I want a TIG welder, I basically have to go vertical when it comes to storing.
Yeah.
And the same thing comes with the bottles in the back. Currently, the MP250 comes with a single bottle on the back, up to 330 cubic feet.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice because these are all painted, so these look.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I made on the side.
Roll this around here.
That you can put 2 bottles. So that cart is wide enough to fit the very large bottles, but I measured and it's just wide enough to fit 2 of the smaller 7.
And if Joe could get in here, so it'll hold 2 smaller bottles.
Yeah, 2 smaller bottles.
You actually made these up, and they're painted black, so they look like they're factory.
Yeah, and may or may not be something that we would offer in the future.
Coming up, yeah. So this may actually be something we're going to offer on this in the future. So you might be seeing this first.
That's exactly what we do back in R&D. As we're using our current stuff on a daily basis, we're making it better, and we're adding little features, everything we can to basically, we're car guys too. So if this works for me, it might work for a lot of guys out there, and it might be a solution for them. So like I said, I need to basically go vertical. So all my stuff is stored almost all the way to the ceiling. Some of the stuff is attached to the ceiling. So I need to be as skinny, but I can go up. So one of these things I saw that, our handle when we developed the MP250, it's the biggest welder we have. And easily can fit any of our TIGs above it, cut 60, something along those lines. Yeah. Just because I need the space. And this is perfect so that I can cart it all around my garage, take it out in the driveway, and I have everything I need on it. So at any point in time, if I really want to, I can put a cut 60, cut 40, cut 20 on top, and I've got all the room needed.
And if you need it, there's a good chance our customers need it.
Absolutely. And when it comes down to it, simply when you look at these machines, there just really isn't anywhere to put anything. You don't really have a cart anymore. You have wheels and everything to move it around, but you're normally wrapping your torches around the bottle, or you're wrapping around the entire machine. They're kind of falling off. So basically what I did was I just took some strap and I used our metal bender.
Which we're going to do here live. We're going to make these right here in a second. This is really cool.
So did this out of strap, also made one out of bar stock that we just had laying around in R&D.
Yeah, so you can make it out of.
I like this better just because it's a little bit more stable, but these are so easy to bend, and most guys have it sitting around their shop. Same thing with the bar stock. I've got a project at home right now with the exhaust had an issue, so I basically made up an exhaust hanger. Yeah. And instead of sitting there trying to weld on dirty metal, that's a nice one that goes underneath and pretty easy to mount up.
And we're going to we're even going to make this tray with a flare, the punch flare dies.
Yep. We're also
going to show you how to use them, and then our new brake. Yep. Which comes out tomorrow.
Probably going to be a little bit later this week. Got to get it in the system and activate it on the website. But with that piece right there, we'll have 2 spaces open. You're going to be doing a flare die and also a bead die, since we have both of them anywhere from 1 inch all the way up to 2.5 inch. So we're going to quick show you how it cuts a hole itself and then flares or beads it. And we're going to bend it up in the new pan and box brake. Show you how to adjust these so that way you can actually make a box out of it and not have to worry about interference anywhere. So we're going to show you how to use that too.
Awesome.
Use some other tools as we're going about.
So we get start bending some metal?
Yep. So we're going to start out by teaching you guys a little bit of how to go about bending some of these things. Look at this thing and understand what's the critical dimension here. So when it comes to this big hoop, honestly that can be almost anywhere. If it's 2 inches higher, 2 inches lower, to me it doesn't really matter because it's just going to be holding my stuff. When it comes to this right here, that's a critical dimension because you need to have this radius and this bend needs to be a certain width. That way it's not sitting like that,
sticking out,
sitting drooped down.
Yeah. So it just
this
nice
is
and
your
flat.
main critical dimension. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this first. and then we're going to take a measurement out to this point, and then when we do the forming, we're going to start at that measurement, make the bend, and then we're going to change out the dies, and we're going to go down to this, and it'll fit perfectly.
Cool.
So either we want to do a top one, bottom one. Since the digital's up top, easier to get to, we'll make that one right now.
Awesome. Let me maybe push this out of your way a little bit.
So to start over here, give you guys a little bit of information based on the bender. You have anywhere from the small 1-inch die that's already in here. We have a follower die that we put in. This can be almost any size, the follower die. It all depends on what fits best once you load the material in. So you want like a tight fit. Go up to a 3-inch radius die. You have a follower die right here, which is adjustable. If you can look at this, it's actually on a cam, or it's offset. So you have a small side here, slightly larger, and the larger. So you can turn it to the point where this sets in nice and tight. So we're just going to load this in kind of anyway, and once we do put our piece in, we'll be able to adjust it. There's also a forming die, which we'll get to when we do that second 90-degree bend. So basically, with all these, you're doing different radiuses. With the forming die, you're just doing hard 90s.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that here in a minute.
And while you're setting up, don't forget, if you have any questions, all you have to do is post them as a comment on YouTube or Facebook. As always, everybody's favorite lead tech advisor, Scotty C's over here, with a special guest today, making sure he's answering all your questions accurately. So if you have any questions, Scott's there. Do we have anything yet, Scott?
Yeah, we're cruising along right now. The other one we did get asked was, in concerns to welding, if there's any of our equipment that can work without a gas bottle.
Yes. Well, do you want to take that?
Yeah, actually both of these machines will work without a gas bottle. The MP250, you can use flux core, or you can also use stick welding, arc welding. So anywhere from DC positive or DC negative. So you can use 7018 rod, you can use 6011, 6010, 6013, a numerous amount of other rods. And then also the TIG 200 digital that's on above it is also an arc welder.
And
so
our MiG 135, 175 is
basically
250. You can
every
flux
single
core with
one
all
of
those.
every single one of our MIG welders can also be fitted with a drive roller for flux core, and then you just change the polarity.
Yeah.
And then we've got a whole line of arc welders, anywhere from the Arc 80, the 200, and then all of our TIG welders now are also all arc welders.
So just about any welder you need, we'll have it.
Nearly almost every single one of our machines can weld without gas.
Cool.
So if you ever run out, you're able to finish the job. You don't have to worry about running out to your store, the local welding supply that normally isn't open on Saturdays or Sundays.
Either
when
stick
we're
welding
doing
or
most of our
flux
work.
core.
Yep.
All right, well, I'll let you get started here.
All right, so we're just going to load this piece in. This is going to be that first piece that's strapped up on top. That's going to be actually holding the weight of our consumables. Basically, I'm holding this down as tight as possible against basically our handle here. And that's basically going to mean that it's nice and flat. So I'm going to hold this here. Currently, we're not really worried too much about how long this piece is going to be because we can go and chop off the end. So we're loaded in, we're flat against. And I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to pull.
And this will bend fairly thick stuff. 5/8
So
rod,
you can see over there.
5/16 thick flat bar.
Correct. So what I actually did was I didn't load it in far enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this guy out. I'm going to put this down here, grab a smaller die, get it a little bit closer. The reason why we have all these different dies for follower dies. So I didn't go in far enough. So what happened was I grabbed a smaller one, I moved it in to the next adjustment, and I could start going again.
Look at that, a little bit of troubleshooting there.
Yeah. Things happen, and based on what the tool you have, you can actually troubleshoot, you can fix it. You look at here at first, you think, all right, we've got a problem, unloading it. You could go through out the other way, or
just pull it.
You pull your pin, you remove your die, which will just let that fall on the ground. And
pull it out.
It's out. So you can go over 180 degrees with this.
Okay.
So if you wanted to, you could actually wrap it around itself as you could change dies. So what we're going to do is, since we already have this piece,
Are we using this one again, or are we moving?
you can just load that off this side. What we're going to do is we're going to walk over here. We're going to grab.
We're using a template.
Yeah. So all we're going to do, we're just going to load it in like this, and we are going to.
So we're making this one the same or different?
So what we're going to do is we're going to make
is
it
that just how
go
you're marking it?
underneath.
Okay.
That way it's a little bit more, it fits a little snug on this instead of going out to the outside.
Okay.
So what I did was I basically just loaded it in, made a mark exactly where the edge of the welder is, and this is the place that we're actually going to be making the bend. So what we're going to have to do over here is we're going to need to change up our setup a little bit. So instead of having that center pivot being the actual the end of your handle, what we're going to do is we're going to move this inside a little bit further.
And we have a detailed instruction booklet on how to do all this.
Yeah,
which I use as a reference every time. It's good to keep
pretty
around.
much, it's got to be 20 pages long.
Yeah,
and there's
it's
all
detailed.
sorts of, we actually show you how to make letters out of this. If you want to make art, you can actually make all different different shapes, different sizes.
It's a lot of the customers for this, actually. It's
Correct.
A lot of it's non-automotive. It's people
It's
just
artwork.
doing metal work,
So we're going to pull
ornaments, crafts.
the follower die out, put it up there. We're actually going to be putting,
Now, does this one have to go down in more?
yeah, we'll get there here in a second.
Oh, there it is.
We're going to put in.
So now this is the one for making a 90, basically.
Correct.
A tight bend.
So basically what's going to happen is, put this off the side, put our piece in, and depending on, you have to kind of test fit how this piece is going to go in. Sometimes you can fit it in, we're pretty lucky here where this can actually sit in this area.
Okay.
What I'm going to do, actually I'm going to load it this way. We might have to fool around with this for a second. Let's see. Second hand.
Want me to hold something here?
There we go. All right. So basically what's going to happen is, pull this out. Would you be able to hold that up there for me? I just want to get this piece in.
If this is an important job, I got it.
We're going to move this in. You line that up for
Line
me.
up the holes. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one.
There we go.
There it is.
All right, so now we're in. So Joe, if you could come over here, you can see exactly where that mark was. So what's going to happen is I'm going to line it up right against the edge, and this piece is going to stay exactly where it's at, and it's going to start swiping around to your area. So I'm just going to grab the end. We're going to make sure we're flat against this piece again.
Look at that.
Nice and easy. Pull this bad boy out. So now we actually went a little bit over 90. The thing is with that, if I want to go exactly 90,
You got to
I
stop.
have stops. There's all different little areas you can press into. There's ones you can bolt into. There's actually little divots that you press in, a little like a die that is your stop. So you can make so you start at a certain place and you finish at a certain place every single time.
So if you're really making the same thing over and over again,
Correct.
just boom, boom,
Yep.
just keep pulling.
Especially with art, you're going to want to be able to replicate the same thing over and over again. So that's nice to have. Even you can use these as just indicators. Take your Sharpie, write different places where you stopped.
Yep.
You know that this certain material has a certain amount of spring back, so you kind of write those things down, make those little marks. That way you can replicate them over and over again. So now we're going to do the full large hoop section.
Oh, hold on. Do you need this as an example, or you got an idea?
Technically what
Close.
we can do is we will have that strap blade and just give ourselves a general idea of where we want to be.
Cool.
So these things don't need to be perfect, especially they're just holding our welding leads. Don't have to worry too much about it. But some guys are going to want to be able to replicate the same thing over and over again. Every time you do that, make sure you mark on your material, make measurements, write them down. That way you can replicate as many times as you want.
So if you're just joining us, if you have any questions, don't forget, post them as a comment on YouTube or Facebook. Don't forget to visit eastwood.com for our daily deal. Every day we've got a great product with a great deal on it. And also don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where we've got about 1,500 videos, a lot of product demonstrations, a lot of instructions. And like I said, if you're just joining us, he's making these hoops to hold his cables. And then we're going to be making that tray. He's already started here, so you can get a little bit of an idea with our punch flare dies, and he's going to be using a punch bead die. So we're going to do another one to show you how easy it is to make these, which is great if you're making like a bomber seat, anything like that. And then in the middle, we use the punch bead die as well. And right here behind is our brand new brake, which is going to come out later this week. We just pulled it off the pallet to use here in this live video. So you're going to be the first ones to see this used, and you'll be able to get it in a couple days. So keep checking Eastwood.com for when that comes in as well.
All right, so we're all loaded in. Our mark is sitting right here. So what I'm going to do, just basically going to tighten this thing up.
And this is the big 3-inch die.
Yeah, this is the big 3-inch die. So what's going to happen is, you can see this piece isn't moving back here.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily pulling this against that follower die. It's just stationary.
These two are just to keep it in position. So you just want it pinched. This is the one that's actually doing the forming, right?
Yeah, this is doing the forming, and this is your follower.
Okay.
So this is actually rolling, and it's pulling it around this form, basically. So we're going to go all the way around, stop, go a little bit further to hit our 90, and pull it out. So we have our piece.
Cool.
Which we can show you now works, and what we can do is we're going to quick cut this off.
Yeah.
Which will come over here to the
our saw, our horizontal. That saves me on saying multiple words if I can say them all at once. Cool saw we use it all the time. It's actually a horizontal saw that has this vertical attachment to it, so you can use it stand up, which is typically great for sheet metal. But as you can see, if you have something that's bent into a U, you can't use it as in a regular horizontal position. So it also allows you to cut bar stock and stuff like that after you've already bent it. Oh.
So in some cases, you just simply can't use it as a normal chop saw. So you need to stand it vertically, because the way this form is,
you would never
it
get
might
it in
not
there.
fit in there. So you basically just stand it up, put your extra plate on it, and you can use it as you normally would with a vertical bandsaw.
And now you got a hook.
Yep. That, all 5-10 minutes. If we weren't working on the camera, probably do it twice as fast.
Oh, yeah, you can do it in a couple minutes easy.
Yeah. So we can come back to this in a little bit, and we're going to actually clean it up with the expander wheel. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to basically our box, which is what we made over here for the actual TIG 200 digital.
Pull it out front, maybe.
You guys are moving around. Do you mind shooting the
There we
base
go.
of that? Somebody want to know how you guys had it mounted?
So
A plate for multiple.
It actually, okay, so the question was how does the metal bender attach to the floor?
So we did this a little bit different.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of different things that mount to a floor. So what I did last week was I made a little elevated plate. And that way we can have 4 bolt holes in our floor, and then we can keep on drilling different holes in this plate, and we don't have to keep on using a hammer drill and going into concrete.
Yeah. Or that's how if it was the only thing you're going to have, put 4 holes in your
Correct.
concrete with countersink, what are they called, like what we did there?
Like lags, basically.
Yeah, the lags, and then you can just bolt it to the floor.
Yeah, so where we've got
But we did the
former-
plate, so we can just keep drilling as many holes as we want normally
Absolutely.
in the plate.
We've got the planching hammer, we've got the
The tubing bender.
tubing bender, we also have this bender itself. There's all
Buffer.
different, buffer also, which we'll get to in a minute.
So right now we're going to bend this tray up.
And what you
But-
can't see underneath this is actually more flare dies, which we've already done here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a flare die really quickly.
Can I? There you go. So that's what we're making.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our flare die that I already have sitting in a vise. You don't necessarily need to use a vise for this. You can sit there, put them together, and hold them basically. As it's starting to tighten down, it won't spin because it actually has 2 jaws. So we will open this up and show you those jaws. So Joe, if you could get in here. This is the business
Look down
end
on top of it.
of these dies. So this is actually a cutting piece, and then you can see the form of the flare sitting in here. So what's going to happen is you just drill a 1/2 inch hole and then instead of sitting there working with a hole saw, which we all know walks all over the place. So when you use an 1.5-inch hole saw, or in this case a 2-inch hole saw, you're not going to get a pure 2 inches because they move. So in other ways, you're going to have to punch exactly 2 inches. So one quick tip for these: make sure they're very, very well lubricated.
Yeah, they're covered in oil there.
Yeah, these are covered in oil. Just the reason behind that is you're forming metal. You're actually stretching metal, and it's going to be difficult to get things apart if you don't use oil. And also with the actual bolt itself, you want to make sure it's nice, well lubricated. You don't want to eat up the threads. A lot of people always ask, can you use an impact gun with these? I suggest not. It does work very, very quickly if you do use an impact. But the problem is, when I'll show you here in a minute as I turn this, those two teeth that are basically going to be biting into it, if they would ever get slightly off center, you'll actually start eating into itself, and you're going to strip the threads in the bolt before you're going to hurt the tool itself. So,
and it's pretty easy to do by hand.
Yeah, it's incredibly easy to do by hand. We're going to use just a small 1/2-inch ratchet. You start tightening it down, and what I'm going to do is, as I'm tightening it down, I'm going to actually move this, slightly turn it, because that almost centers those two teeth. So as we keep on going around,
and you can do.
You heard that first pop.
Yeah.
That's one side of the one tooth going, and it's going to pop again.
And this will do 16 gauge steel.
Yep.
14 gauge aluminum.
So we're using 18 right now, just for ease of
Yeah.
use as we're doing the video. But you heard that second pop. That means the second tooth went in. All you're going to do is just keep forming, and the tool's going to let you know when it's done.
It looks like it bottoms out.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it did. I could feel it.
Visually, you can tell.
Yep.
And I mean, 16 gauge steel is basically anything you're probably going to be.
Yeah, it's thicker than majority of what's on a vehicle.
Yeah.
But if you're doing gussets on a roll cage, something along those lines, you're going to want to use thicker material. So we're going to pull this
And this
off.
will handle it then pretty easy. And aluminum.
Yeah.
Do aluminum too.
So that exactly 2-inch center just was punched out, and now you have the forming die. As we said before, you're forming around the centerpiece. So all I'm going to do is give it a quick hit, and we're out. And you can see
Yeah.
nice edge where before this thing would flop all over the place.
So not only is it appearance, it's strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like rolling beads and
Yep.
something.
So right here, it doesn't have much flex at all. But if you get in the center, it's all over the place.
So that means punch bead.
That was punch flare.
Yeah. So now we're going to do punch bead.
So we're going to do a punch bead in the center. Do the exact same thing we just did before. We're going to unload this. And what you need to do is you need to look at and ask yourself, which way are we going to go? So with this one, the bottom die, we can load
Which
this.
way the punch is going to go?
Yeah, correct.
Like this was pushed down.
Correct.
So it's which way you want
We're
the
going
bead
to do the exact
down
same
or
thing.
The bead rolled up.
So what we're going to do is
So-
these are set up slightly different. So the actual teeth are going to be feeding down now instead of going up, because this is a flat surface it's going to be going against, as opposed to if you loaded this in incorrectly, you're going to have a raised edge here. So it's not going to be an exact sharp cutting edge against a dead stop surface. Your material is actually going to curl in.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that these are set up properly and that they're nice and well lubricated.
So this is going to cut it, and it's going to keep pushing it, and then it's
Correct.
going to form the bead.
And something
It's
you
cut it and
can
then
do
form
with
the bead.
these, you can just cut with them.
Okay.
If you wanted to, in many
You
cases,
just stop as soon as it cuts through.
yeah, you could stop, but at the same time, what I like to do is I'll actually turn this thing over, and now all of a sudden,
Oh, yeah. And now it can't.
yep. So what we'll
cool
do is
little
we'll load it back in.
If you're out there watching this and you want to check these out, we always have links in the comment section on YouTube in the description that are going to take you right to the product pages for the metal bender, the punch flare dies, the punch bead dies. So you can go right there and check them out, get some more info.
And while you're doing that, we can also mention that these range in size from 1 inch to 2.5 and half-inch
Yep.
increments. So the size he's showing isn't the only size we have.
Yes, correct, Scott. Yeah, we got a bunch of sizes in both flare and bead.
So I'm not sure if, Joe, you can see this in here, but what I can do is I can see if I can rotate it. So if you can see that little edge, it's basically like like a moon shape, that's the cutting head just almost finishing what it's doing.
Yeah, you can see the.
So as I go down,
you can see the half moon just visible. Now it's not.
There's that first hit.
Yep.
There's a second hit. And we're going to keep on. It actually dropped down. With this one, instead of that progressive
Because
slope,
it's a flare.
now you've got a bead which has a little bit of a gap, and you're going to keep going. And you can actually see the material
metal.
start to kind of tense up.
Yeah, because it's getting strength.
This one's a little bit harder on you because
You want me to do it?
instead of being progressive, you are just slowly forming that big bead. So basically, it just told me that it's done.
It's done, yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen it up.
This is pretty quick, too.
Yeah.
That came right off.
So,
That's pretty slick.
and now
Now there's like no flex.
there's a lot more strength in there. And you can see on the opposite side, it's
Yeah.
a really nice machined bead.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
So
All
instead
of
of-
them do.
So instead of using a bead roller to try to get a really perfect circle around something you've already cut, that will form the same thing every single time, so it takes the human error out of it.
And there's like no edges hardly
Nope.
either.
This is, if you would take a mic up to this, it would be exactly 2 inches, and it wouldn't have an edge you need to clean. They're perfect edges every time.
So now, our new brake.
Yeah, now we're going to walk over. This is one of the smaller ones. So we have a 12-inch, a 24. This is the 24 right here. And then we're going to be bringing in a 48,
48.
which is behind Scott over
Yeah.
there. And that will be about a month behind. These will be in later this week.
So sometime maybe in March you have the 48-inch one as well.
Correct. So in order to quickly load this in, all you're going to do,
So right now you're using it like a regular brake. If
Correct.
people aren't familiar with this, in a typical brake you can't form a box.
Yes.
Because
You're
after
gonna
you make
run
one
into
bend,
something. Yeah, which we'll show you
your
here in a
sides are going to
minute.
run into it. So we'll
So-
show you how to avoid that.
well, you can see I don't have lines anywhere on this when it comes to where we're actually making the form.
Uh-huh.
I already have these notches cut out. They're 1 inch on both edges. So all I need to do is just put this edge right where the hinge is. And I basically need to give myself a slight bit of space right here because you have to worry about the material itself bending. So what's
Okay.
going to happen is this forming arm is actually going to try to contact that if you don't leave that space there.
Okay.
Contact the upper fingers. So right now we're loaded in, and what we're going to do, we're just going to tighten it down. We're going to grab the handles. We're going to just quickly look at this to make sure that we didn't go past our 90 degrees. We're pretty darn close. Looks like we're there. All you do is lift it up. Instead of tightening it down like a current Versa bend,
Yeah.
all you're doing is just lowering
lever.
and raising a handle. We're going to go back over to the other side. We're just going to push this down slightly. That way we can set our piece exactly where we need to.
And if you're just checking in, this is a brand new brake, the pan brake.
Yeah,
Finger
box
brake?
and pan brake.
Box and pan brake.
So when you're making-
Just came in today, and it'll be available later this week.
Yep.
24-inch model.
Go back up.
So make sure you keep checking back to eastwood.com because later this week this will be available.
So right there about. So now here's the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm going to load this in, and you're going to find out that
You can only
actually
go
I'm going to
about,
start bending this.
yeah, you can only go about 40 degrees, 45 degrees. And now
it
you're
stops.
done.
Now what do? What we're going to do is we're going to unload it and grab an Allen. Going to loosen these guys up.
While you're spinning those out,
Oh.
I have another question for you. So, Rue has asked, what size holes did you just punch with the flare? And
They were
the
2 inch.
2 inch? Okay,
Yep.
I couldn't tell from over here, so you want to know.
Yeah, so anything from 1 inch to 2.5 inch flares and beads, you can buy them by singles, because when it comes down to it, a lot of guys might only ever do one size. So we don't want to force you to spend hundreds of dollars to buy a
kit.
huge kit when a lot of guys, they might only be using, say, 1.5 inch tubing, and they're using these as gussets. They want to match kind of everything. So you can buy them per piece. So what we did was we pulled out one of the larger fingers out of this. We're going to grab our box, and luckily with this piece right here, we're actually the exact width. Just gotta straighten this up. Oop. Loosen us a little bit. There we go. So just tighten it down. And as I go up here, since this finger is basically the almost identical width, we're just going to peel this out a little bit.
This is it?
Yeah.
That's pretty slick.
So now we have, since I peeled that out a little bit, we can just push it back in.
Yeah.
We've got our box. I didn't load it in perfectly, so we have a little bit of a gap there. We can go back and form that at a later time.
It'd be great. You're making like a battery tray or anything like that.
So we'll get a little bit closer this time so we can...
Probably some floor pans even, depending on how... If
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
If you want to bend them to come up and touch the rocker or somewhere around it. And now, all the pieces you took out, they're different sizes, so that way you can adjust them for
Correct.
for the width. If
So
Joe can see that, right?
Yeah.
You've got a bunch, so that way you can adjust to the width that you need, right?
Mm-hmm. So something that, what I did is, since this just happened to be the same size as this piece, it was easy for me to use this. But something you can do, you can actually loosen these. So say I've got a piece that this is 1 inch, 2 inch, this is 3 inch, that's 6 inches wide. Say I loosen this up, I've got something that's 7 inches wide. All I do is I loosen it, and I literally
Just slide it down,
slide these down.
and then you just tighten back up, and now you got it. Because
So now
the middle's not going to
yeah,
matter.
you take your measurement, it's roughly 7 inches. That little small gap there won't make much of a difference.
Yeah.
So you can mix and match these all over the place. It's best to actually put the material right in the center, because that's where all the strength is. There's actually bracing behind this.
So you don't get any torque.
Correct.
Twisting, right?
Yeah, so with some lesser brakes, what's going to happen is there's going to be deflection in the center. So when you start pulling this up, you'll actually see this forming piece start to splay out.
Oh, geez.
So you'll have really, really sharp edges, but in the center you'll have a radius.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, it doesn't look right. I mean,
Yeah.
technically it's not as strong. You want to have a nice sharp edge all the way across. So there's plenty of bracing in the back here. That way you don't have any of that deflection. So you can move these all over the place. For the hobbyist and the guy that doing weekend stuff, 24 inch is perfect.
Yeah.
We'll have a smaller one, a 12 inch, so you can put it underneath your bench and come back at a later time.
Like a battery tray, or
Yep. So as you can see,
improve your welding cart.
did a nice tight edge right here. You can go back, TIG weld it, MIG weld it. We were a little bit further out on this one, so I would actually end up doing dolly and then tighten it up.
Tap it in.
But in general, this is your finished piece. We would weld this up. We'd put the backer, like you would see her there, and then an extension on the bottom. That way it's elevated off the top of the machine. But in general, with these 1/2 inch holes, probably took the longest thing to do. And then we went and did all of our forming. Probably make this in about 20, 30 minutes, as long as you got the the tools to do the job.
Yeah.
So as we're done this one, that's kind of it. But there's something I wanted to go over. Something I made just a little bit earlier, just a little scrap piece of metal that we were testing over there, is the expander wheel. So
Okay.
Matt was hitting on it last week, 2 weeks ago, how he was doing a great job of buffing. Well, it's not only just buffing, it's sanding, and it's a lot better than a normal grinding wheel, because normally with a buffing motor, you're extended out pretty far. So with this, you can get all around something as you're...
Yeah. And this gives a little bit.
Yeah,
Which,
it's
so
not
you're
that
not-
chatter.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to real quick grab, I'm going to pull this off. This is from earlier.
Now you decide to sand it down.
Yeah, well, we got to show you guys stuff. All right. So
Yeah,
that's
this
the way.
expander wheel is pretty cool. If you guys are into it, if you search it on YouTube, we did a pretty good. We
Yeah.
did a video on doing some aluminum, clean up some aluminum.
Yeah, there's all sorts of bands, anywhere from very aggressive,
up to 3,000.
up to 3,000 for polishing. This is what I did earlier. Something that please don't do it. Don't let any of these things be sharp, because as soon as you go put your torch on it, you might spring a leak, and then you're going to be calling Scott over there, my welder doesn't work. Well, you might have a small hole because you're not getting any of that argon to your TIG torch. So clean them up.
Yeah.
And make sure they look real nice. You can go over, paint them, powder coat them. Right now, I think we've got about 120 grit. So real simple, I'm just going to break the edges. So now we've got nice clean edges. We don't have to worry about hurting our torches or any of the other leads that are hanging off the side of the welder. So we'd probably go over this, the rest of it, polish it up real nice, put a clear on it, or powder coat them, make them look like they actually fit on the welder. But this is a really, really neat tool that's only 30, 35 bucks. You can grab tons of fairly cheap consumables.
Yeah.
And it's one of those items that I can't stand every time I break out my one of my grinders. Just that stone wheel is just so harsh.
Yeah.
You can honestly hurt yourself with them. These are very, very smooth and very forgiving. They make you look a lot better than you are. So.
And you can use them for buffing. Like he was cleaning up aluminum,
absolutely.
too.
There's
And they're great for
Trizac.
that.
Yeah, there's Trizac bands. There's sanding bands, buffing bands, all sorts of different ones. And you don't have to worry about the different consumables because Eastwood's got everything you need.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Andy. I guess if that's it, we're going to check out.
Yeah.
So don't forget to join us every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time at eastwood.com or on YouTube or on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to be notified, even if you're a subscriber, you'll notice there's a bell icon in the top corner if you're watching on YouTube. So make sure you click that, and then you'll be notified the instant we go live. So
You can also do the same thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can do notifications. So every time a daily deal is going to come up, you're going to get that notification. Every time we go live video, you're going to get a notification. There's ways to change the things you want to see, but you will get those notifications from Eastwood on a daily basis.
All right. So, thanks again. I guess we'll
You
see
bet.
you next month with another cool project.
Sounds good.
And don't forget, you can always watch us recorded on YouTube or Facebook if you're just tuning in now. So, all right.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Yep.